Hello, welcome or welcome back. This question is, my NotebookLM chat hallucinated the other day. I thought that it wasn't supposed to do that. Okay, that's technically not a question, but I get it. So this is one of those areas that I get can be really confusing for people because there is a lot of conflicting information out there. And the normal narrative that I see out there, at least, is that NotebookLM, quote unquote, never hallucinates. Um, that is false, as you've seen. So let me show you, because I'm just another person with another perspective. What do I know? So let me show you, one, I've experienced this, but let me show you Google documentation that confirms that it sometimes will hallucinate. So this is notebooklm.google.com, just to get to this starting point if you want to kind of follow along. I have a pro account for this. It looks a little different if you have like a plus account or a free account. I don't know what Ultra looks like because I don't have an Ultra account, but what I want to show you is in the Introduction to NotebookLM notebook. If you have a pro account, it'll just be within your recent notebooks. If you have one of the other accounts, it'll be within your featured notebooks. But either way, this is a shared notebook that Google makes and maintains and then shares out to everybody. And the source that I want to go into is a guide to key features in NotebookLM. Again, I didn't create this notebook. This is made by Google. It's like I can't edit things. I can't do a bunch of stuff in here. This is basically like read only. But if I come in here and then I scroll down to, I believe it's the chat section. Where are you? Yes, so here's the chat section, and yes. So right, the last paragraph in the chat section. And it says a key feature of NotebookLM is that chat responses only use data from your sources. Okay, that's what most people talk about, comma, unless you explicitly ask the model to do something more creative. For example, rewrite the ending of my short story. For this reason, you may receive the chat response, NotebookLM can't answer this question, try rephrasing it or ask a different question. So that is one scenario that can happen. If you ask it to do something creative, it might just tell you it can't do it. The other side of it is that it will do something more quote unquote creative. And by definition, that is something that's outside of what's actually in your sources. So a lot of times you'll use NotebookLM, you'll define your sources of truth, and then you'll use it to retrieve information. And that's what the whole setup is for. It's retrieval-augmented generation. If you go into kind of the technical side of it, most people don't know or care about that, so I'll kind of stay away from it. But basically, if you put something in one of your sources, let's say you have a 100 item list, and you put it as a source, and you need to retrieve, number 14 and number 37. Or you put in your meeting minutes and you need to retrieve the thing that Susie said 10 minutes in. Something like that, where it's just like, I know that this is in here, but I don't know where. Can you find it for me? That is some kind of direct retrieval. It's just like, this is a pattern I want you to find. Please find it in my sources and tell me where it is. That is a very common use for NotebookLM because it can save you time. It can do that faster than you could just manually. Asking for something creative is a little different, and it's just like, yeah, there's information in my sources, but I want you to change it somehow. Again, the example here, rewrite the ending of my short story, or rewrite this and make it sound more professional, or redo this and make it sound funny, or there's all kinds of stuff you can do in here, like become a game show host and you can ask all kinds of things that are quote unquote creative. And the risk with that is that you're asking it to make up information. The irony in this is that hallucinations are made up information. So it's like it's challenging to ask it to make up information and then fault it for making up information. But I see that, and that's kind of, I think, the nature of the question here. If you go back to whatever you asked it in chat, and that information wasn't provided to me, so I don't really know what you started with. But if you go back to what you had in chat, my guess is that you have some kind of request in there for something creative. And NotebookLM is really good at not making things up unless you ask it to, or even like imply that you want it to make up information. And then there's a really fine line between creative stuff that you want and creative stuff that you don't want that you then label as a hallucination. Either way, the answer to your question is, again, in this Google documentation, I believe, and it's hidden. Like, you have to know this is in here. It's just like, I even just found this randomly one day, but it's like, it's a Google shared notebook, one of their like 30 sources in here, and it's like a very specific paragraph. But again, I think this is the answer to a lot of the hallucination questions that I get about NotebookLM, where it's just like, if you don't ask for something creative, it's usually pretty good about not quote unquote hallucinating. But as soon as you go to the more creative side of things, which chat can definitely handle, like I know they change the model all the time, but I think right now it's Gemini 3.1 Flash. It can do all kinds of really creative stuff, but you just have to be really careful and aware that you're asking it to go outside of the sources and, change the information or add to the information or present it in different ways so that you can understand it better or whatever. But the point of this whole thing is that if you experience what we'll call hallucination in NotebookLM, which is basically the model making up information that is not in your sources, it is usually the result of you explicitly or maybe implicitly asking it to do something creative, which, worded differently, is you're asking it to make up information. If you notice that, then reword your question if that's not what you want, or like, there are multiple ways to just kind of figure out what to do about it, but usually you don't even realize that you asked it to do something creative. But if you experience hallucination in NotebookLM, that's usually why, from what I've seen. So look back through, see if there's something where you might have prompted it to be creative, and if so, change it, or I don't know, don't care enough and move on and do something else. But I believe that answers your question. If not, let me know. See you next time.